I mean, he's not litigious, yeah, but I mean, you just better look out. So that's all coming up, but they're wanting to assassinate his character now because they know they've been tapping his phones, obviously. I know what he was planning to do politically. They want to destroy him before he runs for president. Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones. All right, so I'll get into the defamation and the political destruction, the attempt of it, of Jesse Ventura coming up. If you don't know the details, they had this Navy SEAL guy with a book that came out last week claimed that Ventura was running around saying, "I'm glad Navy SEALs are dying," which is asinine, and that he punched him out in public, but there's no witnesses. And then it ran all over TV and all over newspapers as if it was true with no proof. And so all those people will get to be, well, you know what's on something that happens in the courts. So just enjoy yourselves. But again, this is the anatomy of a hit piece, of a system desperate to destroy people. So Jesse Ventura coming up, and then after that, we'll open the phones up and get into some of the other news. But let me get into the top stories right now. Iran decides to close the Strait of Hormuz if oil exports blocked. It's an Infowars.com article linking to 3 different official publications of the Iranian government. The senior commander in Iran's Revolutionary Guard told the National Daily on Sunday that the Iranian government has decided to close the strategic Strait of Hormuz at the mouth of the Persian Gulf if the country's oil exports are blocked. And the EU is set to block it. 51% of all of their gasoline is imported. They don't have enough refineries for their oil. Also on Sunday, Iranian Army Commander Brigadier General Habalullah Sayari said Iran can block the Strait of Hormuz easily. The threat comes as the European Union prepares to embargo Iranian oil. That means they're going to have the military board the ships. An embargo is an act of war, as Ron Paul said. At the end of the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz in response to Iran's alleged nuclear weapons program. You know, just digressing from it, I loved Ron Paul last night in the ABC debate from New Hampshire because they were all talking about, as commander-in-chief, I will attack Iran. And Ron Paul said, listen, let me read to you the Constitution, the subsection. You're not the commander-in-chief until Congress that makes the laws declares war, and then you're handed that declaration of war and directed against the enemy in the declaration. See, people think the president is the boss, not in a republic. They don't trust a president to make war. The founders didn't. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, because they can become a dictator. Caesar used that power to become dictator in Rome 2,060-something years ago. Look it up. The Congress that represents the states, 500-plus people, they debate, they vote, they make the decision, then they write up the declaration of war, who it is, what the goal is, and they say, you are now the commander-in-chief. That hat only goes on. And they always say the commander-in-chief and play music and do this. They didn't even do that until the 70s. They didn't call him commander-in-chief. They didn't wear jackets saying that. They are the commander-in-chief when Congress delivers them the law of war. Here is the declaration. Here is the enemy. You are to execute this. You are now the top general. Execute. Execute it. It's like a warrant to a police officer. Can a police officer come in your house without a warrant? No, they can't, unless they see criminals with bags of money, running out the front door. The cop chases them. They run back in. That's probable cause right there. A citizen can do that under common law. That's what citizen's arrest is. You see somebody shooting people in the street, you can go out and shoot them. You see the tower sniper in UT shooting people, you can go up and fire back at him. The system wants to get rid of common law and bring in this system where only specialized government minions can do it to usurp the rightful power of the people. But I'm digressing. Now, by the 60s, they stopped declaring war. By Vietnam, completely, even Korea, they didn't declare war. They called it a police action, but it was a big fight in Congress over it. So Congress still authorized the police action for the president, but didn't call it war because of all the things that entailed. By Vietnam, they staged the Gulf of Tonkin attack. Nothing is said. They just do it, but they still have the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that Congress, the president calls for, Congress passes. So to get us away from declarations of war, they still have Congress issue the order, but they call it something else. The lawyers are slowly abridging it. Right through the Gulf War, before that, Panama in 87, all of these events, or 88, all of these events, Congress gives the approval. Gulf War I, Gulf War II, Afghanistan, Congress. But not under Obama. Obama violates Article 1, Section 9, becomes the head of the UN Security Council. That's why they had all these globalist bureaucrats there like Henry Kissinger weeping on C-SPAN when Obama sat as the head of the UN Security Council, because it was high treason. I mean, it was an American president serving as the head of the UN Security Council, the real head of the UN. I mean, it was wearing two hats, serving a foreign power, unbelievable. He didn't stop there. Now Obama has all these recess appointments, and they're talking about impeachment. That was in the news Friday, because the Senate has never even heard these. You're supposed to take almost a year without the Senate hearing them before it's a recess appointment, and then they still have to be heard later. He's saying, no, they're permanently federal court heads, federal judges at high-level positions at the major courts of appeals and other major courts without Congress having authority. He launched a war in Libya. And when Congress criticized him and said, we'll give you the war power, just consult us, he said, no, I get my authority from the UN. Remember that? Remember that letter he put out publicly on the WhiteHouse.gov and speeches saying, I do this for the credibility of the UN. He's saying to Congress, you have no credibility, meaning the American people who elected him. You have no credibility. I hold this power. And now we have all these clips I played Friday. In fact, later in the second hour, if we have time, I'll get to these again, because there's a bunch of them. I didn't get to all of them on Friday, where he's in all these dozens of speeches saying, Congress is the problem, and I'm going to do this without them now. He says, they're the problem. And the crowds cheer. The president operating on his own, which is what the bureaucracy wants. They want to get rid of Congress. They want to make it basically ceremonial, a rubber stamp. So he's launching wars and saying they're kinetic actions, and he's doing it for the UN and for their credibility. He's got the EPA shutting down power plants. You notice your power bill going up all over the country, coal-powered plants and others, including dams, so that insiders that have paid him all these contributions like GE, they get to generate more power now and charge more because their competition got shut down. They all get waivers, just like on healthcare. All the big unions, McDonald's, all the big insider, Fortune 100, they get waivers. You don't get a waiver. This is what fascism, crony capitalism is. But they socialize your wealth to make you dependent, but then they transfer it to the fascist level above that. All the time, you never hear a Republican talk show host tell you about this. They say all corporations are great. Wall Street's wonderful. Really, with all their tens of trillions in banker bailout of taxpayer money, you call that free market? That's a bunch of welfare pimps signing us onto their Ponzi schemes. Democrats won't tell you that. Republicans won't tell you that. Only one that'll talk about it's Ron Paul. So they're shutting down our energy. They're launching wars. They're passing laws saying the military can secretly arrest Americans, NDAA, torture us, disappear us. They're gearing up for war with Iran. That'll be a great political diversion for them while they rob us and devalue the dollar. They're violating the Constitution from one end to another. But we're going to look at the anatomy of a hit piece straight ahead.
When you're up.
We are back live, ladies and gentlemen, and coming up, I'm going to air an interview I did a few hours ago with Jesse Ventura from Mexico, joining us via Skype. But now I have his son, filmmaker in his own right, TV host in his own right, Tyrell Ventura. Before we go to Tyrell, I want to just introduce why we're covering this. In a week where the Iranians are standing by saying they'll attack U.S. and Israeli ships that enter the Strait of Hormuz, and U.S. and Israeli ships are preparing to enter it in the next 4 days, in a week when the EU is putting sanctions on Iran to shut down all gasoline being imported in, which Iran says is an act of war. I'm not taking sides, folks, but it is. Do you have any idea what this is going to do to the economy? An industrial depression within days of this happening. This could kick off a giant regional war. It's what the globalists want as a distraction. I'm not saying Iran's without problems. The point is, the politicians who are universally hated now need this as a distraction. With all of this happening, we're covering it next hour. What did Fox News and other TV networks cover Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and today? More than 10 shows that I've seen on Fox, O'Reilly Factor, you name it, led their shows with a, quote, Navy SEAL sniper from the Turkey shoot at Fallujah. Chris Kyle with a book out. Notice the publishers didn't want this in the book. To promote his book, saying he was at a Navy SEAL bar. By the way, Jesse hadn't drunk in decades, and I know him well, hung out with him a lot, doesn't drink. And that Jesse Ventura was there at a wake saying, I'm glad the Navy SEALs are basically dying, which is just asinine. And then the guy punches him, knocks him down, and runs away. And I watched it, and it didn't come off very credible. All over TV, with Fox News running headlines, Navy SEAL sniper punches out Jesse Ventura, never saying he alleges. Now, 2 weeks ago, TMZ, that is an affiliate of Fox, works with them, put out a story that he was in California, pulled over by cops, road raging. I talked to Jesse the day before, setting him up for a week later on the show. We're friends. We talk all the time about stuff that's happening. He ended up calling the show the next day before I'd even heard of it, saying, I'm here in Minnesota. They just said I'm road raging out here. He said, I think this is a hit piece because he's been considering running as a libertarian for president. There's been some other talk about Ron Paul picking him as a VP. The point is they want to destroy Ventura because they know he's a wild card. And I want to play a minute or two of this, then go to Tyrell Ventura to get his take on this, and then go to the interview with Jesse Ventura, former Minnesota governor. But here is the guy promoting this book, but it guaranteed he's a mercenary. He's hooked in with Dick Cheney, Richard Pearl. He trains police now to deal with domestic extremists. This is his coming out, his rollout, and I guess they want to assassinate the credibility of Ventura. Here's a clip of him on O'Reilly Thursday night.
I think they'll like it. First of all, you say you knocked Jesse Ventura to the floor with a punch. Now, you don't mention his name, but everybody knows who that is. Number one, that happened? You knocked him out?
Yeah, well, I knocked him down.
Knocked him down. Why? Why would you punch Ventura?
It was in 06, was the year that we lost our first 2 SEALs in Iraq. We came home. We lost our last guy just before coming home. We had the wake in a SEAL bar there in Coronado, and he was there. He was there for a speaking engagement at a Bud ceremony, graduating class.
Because he was a SEAL, right? Yes, was a Navy SEAL. So he was bad-mouthing the war, right?
Bad-mouthing the war, bad-mouthing Bush, bad-mouthing America.
And you took exception?
I did find a problem with it. The family was there. I asked him to please tone it down, that we did not want to upset the family members of Mikey Monsoor.
Who was killed?
Yes, sir, and he earned the Medal of Honor. He jumped on a grenade and saved everybody else around.
But I want to be clear, Ventura wasn't attacking him at all, verbally bashing him. He was just bashing the whole thing in general.
Yes, sir, until he said we deserve to lose a few guys.
He said we, the United States...
No, he said y'all deserve to lose a few guys.
Navy SEALs.
I'm assuming he was saying that to me.
Was he drunk?
No, sir. I never saw him with a drink in hand.
All right, let's stop right there.
You deserve to...
And I'll have to hold Tyrell over. And the whole Ventura interview is coming up, just taped 2 hours ago or so. Ladies and gentlemen, notice the psychological warfare. It's the same in every interview. It's scripted. This guy's following a well-trained script. He hates Bush. He hates the war. He hates America. Notice these terms. Like, if you don't like wars, you hate America. This is ahead of an attack on Iran. They're wanting to go after people who they know could speak out against it. And you notice he makes it about a family, a wake. Ventura's there saying, you deserve to die. I mean, you couldn't write a script of something more ridiculous. And it is just off the charts. Wait to hear the interview with Jesse. It starts slow, and then it really, I've never interviewed him like this. He's very emotional. For Jesse, who's all into being calm, cool, and collected. I would not want to be Chris Kyle right now. But this is the anatomy. Remember, they lied and said Saddam was throwing babies out of incubators.